precious in life and freedom.
Your freedom is in your hands. I have come here as the commander of this revolution to let you know that we will defeat Cameroon. We will not only defeat Cameroon, we will make it impossible for Cameroon again to ever invade our land.
Because this is the appointed generation. And we are going to see Biafra.
This edition of Tough Talk. Today is the 14th day of February 2022. My host today is Dr. Cho Ayaba. For your information and for the records, Dr. Cho Ayaba is the former Secretary General of Southern Cameroonian Youth League, SCYL, and is the current leader of Ambazonia Governing Council. Dr. Ayaba, please welcome to Tough Talk here on Radio Biafra, London.
All hail Biafra. Thank you very much, my brother.
Thank you and welcome. Without any more preambles, we are going to go straight into this program. Is a hard talk, a tough talk program where we ask questions without trying to be politically correct. Dr. Ayaba, please, in 1993, you were expelled from the University of Buea for staging a one-man demonstration against tuition increases. You have been in exile from Cameroon since then. Please tell us more about the incident in 1993 and what motivated your actions. Over to you, sir.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. And I want to send my patriotic salute to our Biafran counterparts and to my friend Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, who is being held in captivity by a brutal occupying regime. And I want to assure Biafrans that the leader of 70 million indigenous people cannot be held captive indefinitely by a genocidal regime that has murdered millions of Biafrans. And I'm going to do all in my capacity as a friend of the Biafran people to make sure that we can inspire millions to rise up against this tyranny that has been imposed both in our country and in Biafra. In 1993, I became the first Ambazonian student to be admitted in an English-speaking university in Ambazonia. because all through our existence, we studied in English up till high school. There was no university in English. We either moved over to Biafra land, or for those who had money, they traveled to the United Kingdom. We went on the street in 1992 and demanded that Cameroon create an English-speaking university. It was created in 1993, and I was admitted to study mathematics and computer sciences. But there was no computer. I moved from mathematics and computer to study chemistry and chemical process technology. There was no lab. There were no lecture halls. But the same regime, the same people who had studied in different universities free of charge, who had taken part in massive embezzlement, who had raped the economy, who had destroyed the economy, wanted to impose an exorbitant amount of school fees on students. And I argued that because we were facing economic crisis, most of us who were attending university came from poor backgrounds. I made it clear to the administration, you cannot increase fees because it was going to lead to, thousands of students losing their places. And they continued with the agenda of the imposition of fees. I undertook a one-man action against the authorities. I was expelled and banned from attending any other university in the country. We emerged from there and created the Southern Cameroon's Youth League to fight for the independence of Ambazonia. And that led to my moving into exile.
What was your initial motivation? I know that time you must be a young lad. What was your motivations in staging this very difficult, and is it a one-man demonstration?
My motivation was driven by the fact that when that university was created, we had lost so many people who protested for the creation of that university. Many had been murdered, people had been kidnapped and jailed. All those who were appointed as chancellors, registrars, and officials of the university were members of the ruling party. That is, those who never took part in the demonstration leading to the creation of the university became the administrators. And the second motivation was because all of these people had studied free of charge, and they were the same people who had looted, the economy of the country, who had plundered the country into falling into economic crisis. And it was unacceptable that the murderers and plunderers could have the audacity to impose high fees on the poor. And I said it was totally unacceptable, especially having lived for over 35 years under Cameroon and without having an English-speaking university.
Thank you. Let us go further. In 2017, you were allegedly targeted for assassination in Belgium. How did you manage to escape that assassination attempt? And what about the culprits? Were they apprehended? Do you have any idea whether any of them are in jail? Please, the world would like to know.
I don't know anything about the culprit, but I was nearly killed. That's all what I know. And up till this moment, I think one of my fingers is totally incapacitated. And I had a big blow on my forehead that led to me having about 10 stitches. And I just think that I was very lucky to have escaped that very brutal attempt at my life. About the culprit, I have virtually no idea. The threat on my life is constant. That was not the first incident. I think about 2003, the Secret Service of Cameroon tried to lure me for a meeting in the Sheraton Hotel in Abuja. And they had compiled a comprehensive document that was intercepted by the Green Party of Germany. So there has been, numerous attempts at harming me, and but I'm still around to make sure that people have the last laugh.
In March also 2019, according to records, you refused to attend the All Southern Cameroon's People's General Conference in Washington, D.C. People might want to know your reasons, please, if you may.
There has been several meetings that I have refused to attend because there are standard procedures in the organizations of meeting that should emerge in the building of coalitions. And those procedures are quite standard. There are pre-conference discussions. There are pre-conference preliminary agreements that you have to hammer out. And we came to the conclusion that such a meeting will not serve the interests of collaboration, and that the organizers had a predetermined agenda which they simply wanted us, especially myself, to legitimize.
As the leader of the Ambazonia Governing Council, you and the chairman Benedict Kua oversaw the creation of Ambazonia Defense Forces, which carried out its first guerrilla action on September 9, 2017. This was the first action Look at this. You are fighting for Ambazonia Republic, whereas some African elites are calling for a united Africa. How do you relate your fight for the Republic of Ambazonia with the unity of Africa, which is being portrayed by some African elites? How do you relate the two, please?
The reason why Africa is not united is because the Pan-Africanist idea of the late 50s and early 60s was designed as a project to stand against Western imperialism rather than a project to protect African peoples. The right to self-determination of African peoples is not inconsistent with the Pan-Africanist idea of the unity of Africa. We shall never achieve African unity when Nigeria is occupying Biafra, plundering its resources, and kidnapping its leader and renditioning its leader. We shall never achieve African unity when Cameroon has occupied Ambazonia. The notion of African unity is about the freedom of African peoples who should be able to constitute political system over their own nations, to have independent states that can then negotiate unity with other states for the interests of the African people. The current notion of Pan-Africanism is driven by tyrants who are overseeing states for the interests of Western countries, and who are plundering our resources for their own personal interests and the interests of multinational companies abroad. What we are seeking, for example, the alliance between Biafra and Ambazonia, which will extend to other nations that are seeking external self-determination, would ensure that we have true political freedom, where our institutions will be shaped according to our local realities. We have true economic freedom, where our own economic doctrine is going to be a reflection of the desires of our people within our own local government areas. And this is the only way we can achieve a truly united Africa, because once peoples have true freedom, true independence, both political and economic, they can then negotiate broader political and economic union that serves their interests, not corrupt political leaders and Western multinational companies.
Thank you very much. What you're saying now, it means in summary that the reunity of Africa starts with the real independence of the indigenous people. Is that what you're saying?
Listen, let me give you a parallel. In 1939, Adolf Hitler attempted European unity through the violation of the sovereignty of different nations, using force to establish a European unity that serves the interests of the German race. It did not work. 1951, there were a couple of persons who came up and set the foundation for the creation of the European Union based on voluntary entry by independent states. The only way we are going to have true African unity is when different nations that are currently under the occupation of brutal occupiers are able to acquire political and economic independence, and for purposes of expanding their opportunities, they will enter into union voluntarily with other states that serve both their interests and those states' interests. We can never have African unity when the country is ruled by corrupt tyrants who don't serve the continent. When countries and the continent is ruled by people who can hang on to power for 40 years, loot the treasury, plunder the economy, create environmental disaster, and refuse peoples within their own state to seek external self-determination. When millions of people have been denied opportunities, for example, in Biafra, and then you have Biafrans rising up, and then that state kidnaps its leader, burn down villages, and cause mayhem. And so what we are looking forward to is to be able to establish true states based on some characteristics that are indigenous in nature, and then negotiate to expand opportunities by forming alliances with other truly independent states whose governments are accountable to their people, who exploit resources to develop their communities, and who have the interests of their people at heart, not looters and murderers whose only interest is their bank account and multinational companies that have kept them in power.
That is very clear. Now, I want to ask you, because many people will love to know, what is the actual meaning of Ambazonia, please?
Ambazonia was named after, a little island. It's normally like you find genocide, the combination of two words. Ambas is an island within Amazonia, and then the zonia is just derived from zone. So Ambazonia is amber within the zone of Ambazonia.
Okay, it's very clear. What is the population of Ambazonia? Are you also, are your people fully in support of what you're doing? Could you name the regions that make up Ambazonia? Also, how many indigenous tribes or clans make up Ambazonia? I don't know whether I can go on the questions bit by bit, so that with the population of Ambazonia,
it's fine. Yeah, in terms of whether our people are supporting our case to end Cameroon's genocide and to establish for ourselves a freed homeland, I don't even want to go on the issue of opinion. There has been scientific research, that has been surveys that have been done, and an average of more than 85% of Ambazonians are in support for us establishing, to decolonize our state from the brutal occupation of Cameroon. Within Ambazonia, there are 8 million Ambazonians, according to our rough estimate. But we think that we should be more. We should be more. We should be going up to 10 million people. In terms of the state, I sometimes resist to answer this question, because I think after we establish security in Ambazonia, we will redesign the map for purposes of administrative convenience, and to make sure that we can bring back peoples that have been artificially divided because of colonial division. But presently there are 13 states that make up the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. Ambazonia has four main tribes. You have the Widikum, Tikari, the Ijagam, and the Ngembas. These are the four main indigenous tribes that make up Amazonia. They have been split into micro-ethnic groups due to conflicts inspired by colonialism and due to the redesign of our state by the colonial power to instill division for purposes of easy occupation.
What percentage of Ambazonia are you fully controlling? And also, if you want to explain, it is optional. What preparations are in place to take the remaining portion, please?
We control over 85% of Ambazonia, not in a static way, but in a dynamic way. That by dynamic, I mean our strategy of liberation was designed to increase also the cost of occupation. Because you know that countries that occupy you, they have economic benefits. Most states that are occupied, or nations that are occupied, have massive amount of resources, whether it's human or natural resources. So our strategy was designed to make sure that Cameroon pays a high economic cost in that occupation. So we take over territories and we drive the political administrators, but we allow institutions, whether they are hospitals, whether they are social institutions, or whether they are administrative services, so that Cameroon can continue to pay for those costs, but have neither political or economic benefit. That's what we call dynamic control. And we also instituted dynamic control so that we can then prepare to sweep over those places and institute our own system of governance and our own kind of economic and social systems. So basically, we have massive control of the territory, and it will not take long before we can establish full static control and begin to establish socio-economic and political systems that can oversee, the governance of those territories.
In April 9th, 2021, you and Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, made a joint press conference where both of you jointly declared an alliance between Ambazonia and Biafra. Do you think that this alliance is against the neo-colonialist interest? Could you also talk about the benefits of this alliance, please?
Of course, any time that oppressed people come together, it threatens the hegemony of established states who serve the interests of neo-colonialists. Anytime peoples with legitimate claim to territory and rights come together to solidify and to advance their interests, it is an economic threat to neo-colonialists. It is a political threat to neo-colonialists. And so our alliance has not only threatened Cameroon, because an Amazonian Biafran alliance means the accumulation of resources to fight both oppressors, which are Nigeria and Cameroon. So the enemy is scared. And who has kept these oppressors there? They are Western interests for both political and economic reasons. And secondly, don't forget that Yaoundé has always worked with Abuja against the interests of both Amazonia and Biafra. And it is critical that when two states that are occupying two nations form alliances to protect their interests and to undermine the aspirations of the people within these nations, that the oppressed should also come together. So the advantage of our alliance is manifold. It gives hope to both people that they are not alone. The one thing Biafrans must know is that what the enemy does is to project the occupied people as some sort of a pariah, as a danger, to isolate them, to build a counter-freedom narrative. What our alliance with Biafra showed Biafrans was that, hey, we aren't alone. We've got a friend across the border. What it showed Amazonia is that we are not alone. We are not hemmed by Nigeria and Cameroon, but we have a powerful friend. It also has economic advantages. There are thousands and thousands of Biafrans who are living in Amazonia. The economy of Amazonia is fueled by the trade between Amazonia and Biafra. Because we don't have opportunities within Cameroon, our people trade more with Biafra because of the ingenuity and creativity of the Biafran people. And just think of it. Biafra 70 million, Amazonia 10 million. That's an 80 million strong economy that hosts massive natural resources. But that's not all. Think about the human resource that Biafra and Amazonia represent. And I think if we all struggle and become free, we are going to be the beacon of hope, not only for the continent of Africa, but across the world, because of our ingenuity, our creativity, to be able to use our human talents to generate wealth for our people, harness the potentials in our both lands to make sure that we can give our people a shot in a world where they have lived under oppression and uncertainty. And this is what the neo-colonialists fear, because all what they have been used to are puppet states which they have handed them political independence in the night while they are controlling economic independence. These puppet states serve their interests. We have pledged, Mazi and myself, pledge not to only use the natural resources we have, but to develop the human potentials in our people, to be able to give our people a sense of dignity and hope, to make them, tap into their own systems to be able to develop their community. That's not all. There are millions of Biafrans across the world. There are thousands and hundreds of thousands of Ambazonia across the world. We will open up the space for these exiles to become engineers, to become entrepreneurs, to create opportunities for our people, to be the primary investors post-independence, so we can own, the outcome of those investments. So we have a lot we have spoken about. Open the border between the two states and allow free trade zone that is going to generate billions and billions of amber and Biafran for both people. And this is scary to the world. But I've also assured the West in my meetings with diplomats. I have told them our independence is not against you. The Biafran independence is not even against Nigeria. It is for Biafra. Ambazonian independence is not against Cameroon. It's for Ambazonia. And people's freedom, no matter where, should never threaten others except their presence has been illegal, or except their presence has led to millions of death, as you can see in parts of Biafra and in parts of Ambazonia.
Thank you very much. We are listening to Tough Talk. We are going to go on few minutes break so that when we come back, we shall continue. But do not forget that our guest today here on Radio Biafra London Tough Talk is Dr. Cho Ayaba. He is the leader of Ambazonia Governance Council. Don't go away.
You are listening to Tough Talk on Radio Biafra London. You are listening to Tough Talk on Radio Biafra London.
This is war. I'm like a Cameroonian. They took away the land of your birth. They demonized you. They robbed you of hope, of a dream of a future that is better than the one you inherited. They killed your parents, turned your fathers into boys, raped your mom, made your sisters to be ashamed, robbed them in mud. They sent you into exile. You lost your neighborhood. They dispersed your friends. You became delinquent in a land that you did not understand. They took away something so essential to your own existence, that you live here with your body, but your spirit hovers without knowing where to land. They took away from us something so important that life became something we have rejected in this land. They took away from you a country that gave you hope, built the first democratic system where there was an electoral government change. They took away from you your economic system. They blockade your social system. They crumbled your economy so you could go into their own system to work for them. They made you drive through their own system so you could pay toll gate into their own system. They robbed you of your right to think, to hope, to have a future in the country of your birth. 243 years ago, the Americans told the British that their time of independence was now. They fought for 8 years, 4 months, and 15 days. They lost the Battle of Boston, but they won the war for the freedom of the United States. The South Africans faced a nuclear power. They face a nuclear power country. Mandela said he is going to die for his people. He struggled in jail for 27 years because he didn't want to bequeath to the next generation something worse than he had inherited. He fought like a valiant soldier. The Eritreans humbled the Ethiopians, a more powerful Ethiopia supported by Libya and Russia. They fought in trenches, in gutter holes, on rooftop to be able to bequeath to the next generation something better. Your freedom is in your hands. It is going to be fought inch by inch, block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood, rooftop by rooftop.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There you go.
Your freedom is in your hands. It is not going to be given to you on a platter of gold. I can assure you here from Washington, the land of our birth, the towns of Amazonia will be liberated by the valiant soldiers who on a daily basis lay their lives, give their blood, deprive themselves of something more precious to make sure they can stand for our girls, for our children, for our mothers, for our fathers, to bequeath to the next generation a better country that they inherit.
You are listening to Talk on Radio Biafra London. You are listening to Talk on Radio Biafra London.
Welcome back. This is Tough Talk on Radio Biafra London. My name remains Miles Jonathan Chinedu. Today is the 14th day of February 2022. And our guest today is Dr. Ayaba. He is the current leader of Amazonia Governing Council. We must continue. Doctor, please. Amazonia and Biafra, let me go back again. Amazonia and Biafra have same value system, both cultural, linguistic, etc. How could this mutual cross-border relationship between the two emerging nations be improved with regards to business and free cross-border movement, etc.? And why has this type of collaborations that we are not taking place the same way it is happening between the Yorubas in Nigeria and Benin Republic, the Hausa, Fulani, and other tribes both in Nigeria, Cameroon, Niger Republic, Chad, etc.? Please, can you explain further?
These are all nations that exist and whose existence was robbed by brutal external and alien systems that was imposed on us. You know, the foundation of the development of most nations is rooted in the value system. That's why you find either in the United Kingdom or the United States, the value systems is what attracts, businesses, is what attracts, massive number of people willing to study in these countries. It is what attracts, investment, tourists. And the problem we have faced, I'm not talking only about Amazonia and Biafra, is that brutal colonialism, what it did was to alter the value systems and impose foreign value systems that basically robbed us of our identity. And so millions of Africans were even ashamed to talk about their real identity. Millions of Africans preferred, to reflect about themselves using colonial mindset, using the kind of system that the colonialists had imposed. And these systems were created to benefit both the economy and the political space of the colonial master. Because if France comes in and imposes a French value system, what then happens is that that country turns to want to trade only with the country that it understands, and that understanding comes from the value system that is existing in the colonial state. Biafrans want to go and study in the United Kingdom because the value system were imposed. And then the colonialists, what they also did was to undermine our own value system. You realize that when we're at break, you asked me a question if I will be able to speak in our own local language. No, our language is not local. That's our language. The dresses you wear, you people in Biafra, you say you dress local. No, that's national for us. Colonialism robbed us of this. That when you wear your own dress, you see it as local. You speak your own language, you see it as local. No, that's your language. English is not. And I think it is very critical that we begin to readapt and begin to educate and begin to accept who we are and to revisit what made us who we are, not what was imposed on us to make us what the colonial masters wanted of us for both their political and economic interests. Let me tell you, we are a rich culture with value systems that make us to compromise, even though compromise has been the reason why colonialists and butchers are able to sit in our land. Compromise and tolerance that underscore our value system is the reason why Buhari could kidnap the leader of 70 million people and all Biafrans have not carried guns. We are fighting for something bigger than a land. We are fighting for our soul, robbed, intoxicated by those who wanted us to worship their flag, sing their anthem, pray to their own God. We are fighting for our holistic existence. And the moment we establish that, it is going to create a lot of opportunities. It is going to attract a lot of tourists that will in turn create wealth and make our people live a life of dignity. Listen, don't think of the land. The land is the space within which you can establish political institutions to guard what you are really fighting for. An education that is a reflection of your own value system. That you are able to study about doing business in Biafra. That you are able to study fishing in Amazonia, not in Norway. Forestry in Biafra, not in Newfoundland. These people took away from us something that is so essential for our own happiness. And if we are fighting, and we narrow that fighting to some abstract, Once we are done, we will still be slaves. I want all Biafrans, all Ambazonians to know you're fighting for your soul. And that's why you should never, ever blink for one moment. No compromise with those who have imposed genocide, because the future is bright. The opportunities are boundless. Even under oppression, look at how much wealth we generate for the occupier. Even under oppression, look at how many opportunities we create for our own murderers and looters. Even under oppression, see how hospitable we are to those who continue to murder us. But this is why it's important for Biafra and Ambazonia. And I said it. It's easy for the Yorubas to establish connections with, I think, Benin and the Hausas up there with Niger. The reason why they don't want Biafra and Ambazonia to do it is because they don't want us to explore and know the benefits. The Yorubas feel somehow psychologically not alone. They have across their border some other people they can relate to, do business with. The Hausas, they have the same. We must insist that our alliance, even including going forward with the Yoruba people, is quintessential for our existence. Because as I said, Ambazonia will not tolerate for one moment that at its border there is an oppressed people. We will not tolerate it. Every people around our own border must be free.
Thank you very much. Moving further, let me take you through this, please. You once proposed an alliance with democratic forces within Cameroon, that Ambazonia should help overthrow Paul Biya. Now, do you have personal hatred or animosity against Paul Biya?
Why should I not? It would be strange if I didn't. 4.5 million of our people affected. Almost 1,000 villages burned down. Thousands of our people kidnapped and rendition to Cameroon, detained incommunicado. Hundreds of thousands are refugees. Hundreds of thousands are living in the bushes. Women giving birth in the bushes. Girls raped. Massacres. Today is an anniversary how Mr. Biya's forces entered the village. They murdered children. They dragged their dead body, put those bodies in a house and burnt them. Should I turn the other cheek? Mr. Biya should not only be overthrown, we have promised him wherever he is buried, we will dig that grave and bring his body into our land and try it for the crimes that he has committed against our people. Look, we will not forgive, we will not forget. There will be accountability. Africans' life matter. We have been brought up to forgive our murderers, those who loot and terrorize our people. No, with this generation, we will hold you accountable for every soul that you wasted. Even your dead body will be brought in front of our courts to try and hang it.
Okay. Now, is there any changes that would be made by the government of Cameroon that could make you change your mind in this struggle for Ambazonia?
Let me stop you. Don't ask that question, we have nothing left to compromise on. We want the butchers out of our land, and we want them to pay reparation for 60 years of murder and looting. If they don't, we will fight to the gates of hell to kick them out. And if God gives us the power, we will take part of their land and hold it until they pay us reparation. There is no turning back, as you said, because there is no back left to turn to. Behind us is the bodies of thousands of our people that litter the road. We are not going back over those dead bodies. We are fighting to the bitter end until we are free. And yes, any possibility, like the Eritreans did, to overthrow the Ethiopian government, we will form alliances with Cameroonians who are willing to be trained to overthrow that regime. As I said, there will be no nation along our border that is controlled by colonialists. We must be free.
Okay. A struggle of this magnitude is highly tedious and monstrous. Are there politicians of Ambazonia origin that still believe in Cameroon and are working against your struggle? And now it brings us to ask, what about one Mr. Wilbur Joseph that stood firm in the Cameroonian Senate House and declared his stand with Ambazonia some years back, please?
During the Algerian struggle for freedom, there were more people who worked for the French than those who fought for Algeria. During the American Revolution for freedom, only 45% of Americans believed in their own freedom. There are still Amazonians who are held hostage by the banality of evil, the benefits they get. They will remain slaves in the hands of the occupier until we free them. That is the true nature of history. Mr. Weber gave Amazonians hope. He stood in the lion's den and told them straight on, wherever freedom is threatened, resistance is going to be the order of the day. He is now in exile, and I know he still dreams Amazonia.
That's fantastic, honestly. I love people like that. Some people we are hoping that your struggle would have disrupted in one way or another the latest African soccer championship that was held in Cameroon in order to bring more international attention. Was there any match played in the territory of Amazonia?
Yes, there were matches. We succeeded in what we wanted to achieve. All through the history of struggles against tyranny and oppression, no peoples have been strong enough to stop an international competition that serves the interests of so many international stakeholders. No peoples have been able to stop it. But we were able to achieve a couple of objectives. Now, let me tell you why these tournaments are hosted in countries. Countries want to use these tournaments to showcase peace in their country for purposes of foreign direct investment, for purposes of tourism. Countries also want to use these competitions for massive infrastructural development. Competitions are not profitable. Hosting competitions are not profitable. What countries profit from hosting competitions is the public relations, positive image of their country that will then attract millions of tourists. Thereafter, are the millions of tourists who even come into the country at that particular moment. They stay in hotels, they generate employment, they generate wealth. What we did was to give Cameroon a public relations disaster. Cameroon thought it was guarding soldiers. It was making it impossible for any tourist who ever thought of coming into Ambazonia to ever come in there. It made it impossible for anyone who ever thought they will make an investment in a country where a COP cannot be held under normal circumstances to ever make that investment that could create opportunity for Cameroon. So we succeeded in making sure Cameroon never reaped the benefit that it intended in reaping, which is consistent with why other countries have hosted.
Mazi Nnamdi Kanu will be appearing in the Nigerian court on the 16th of February. What do you have to say about it?
Why do you believe in the Nigerian court? Why do you believe in the court of the oppressor? Why do you believe that the arsonist must become the firefighter? Why do Biafrans sit and hope on the court of their oppressor? It baffles me. You people should think of rescue Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. The people who committed genocide on you, the people who kidnapped you from Kenya and rendition him, the people who a couple of years ago attacked his house and murdered too many people. You expecting justice from them? Or is it the kind of justice he had a few years behind and it was taken away back from him just last year? Biafrans, you people haven't started. Nigeria takes the lead of 70 million people and you sit back and hope on the institution created by the same oppressor? Sit up. I don't count on the courts.
Thank you, and I assure you that Biafrans are doing something about it. And the second to the last question is this. Are you doing anything to ensure the release of Sisiku Julius Ayuktabe, first president of Ambazonia, with other activists in jail in Cameroon? Though he was renditioned also from Nigeria, of which after there was a kangaroo court pronunciation in Nigeria that reversed his rendition, which is laughable. So the question is, what are you doing to ensure his release, Mr. Sisiku Julius Ayuko?
The only way Sisiku will be released is when I free Ambazonia. That is why on a daily basis I am mobilizing our people to make sure that we attack the enemy wherever they show their head. We bomb their armor cars in our land. We make sure that we impose economic pressure on them. We delegitimize them. The only way Mandela was free was not because of the benevolence of the occupier or his jailers. It was because the South African people stood firm. The Umkoto Wesizwe imposed a higher cost on the jailing of Mandela. All African countries came together and imposed economic pressure. Siseko will be free. I have been fighting for him on a daily basis. I don't believe in the courts of the occupier. I have said he will not only be free, but he will trade places with those who have jailed him. There will be accountability. It's the same thing I prescribe for Biafra. We Ambazonians, under my leadership, are fighting on a daily basis. We are making baby steps, and I know that sooner or later, not only Siseko, but the thousands of other Ambazonians who are being held captive by a brutal occupier will not only set them free, but make sure they are compensated for illegal detention and torture.
Thank you very much. I want you to, in your parting shot, talk to Ambazonians and Biafrans. And also, later on, you use your language. I don't want to call it local language. Your language to talk to also the people, please. In your parting shot, please go on.
What was your first question? Let me get clarity.
You just talk to Ambazonians in your pattern shows. Talk to Ambazonians and the Biafrans. And after everything, after speaking to both of them in English, you can use your own language. I don't want to call it local language. Your language,
it's
your natural
local
language. To also address the people. Go on, please.
All hail Biafra, all hail Biafra. My Biafran people, you are free. What you have to do is to defend that freedom. It will not be given to you on a platter of gold. Those who committed genocide in your land will not get up one day, take responsibility for the crimes they committed, and set you free. You must realize that you are at a crossroad. The decisions you make today will determine the future of your country, whether you are free or remain in servitude for the rest of your lives. And the next generation, 2 generations from now, Biafrans will rise up and ask you, what did you do at an opportune moment when your leader was kidnapped? Did you wait for justice from an Abuja High Court? Did you wait for justice from an Abuja High Court? Or you took a stand and said, we will not allow the leader of 70 million people to be kidnapped and being humiliated every day with handcuffs. And we relied on lawyers to use the same legal system that has been unjust on you since your existence. Our fight for freedom is neither against Cameroon nor against Nigeria. It is for our own existence. Our self-preservation, our right to have hope in the land of our birth, to exploit our resources, to develop our own countries, to make sure that our sisters and mothers don't die each time in giving birth, that there are hospitals that can take care of the sick, that there are roads that you can drive in and don't die on a daily basis, that you have security agents who protect you rather than kill you. You have governors you elect who exploit their resources and develop your own communities rather than loot those resources and pay allegiance to Asuro. That the flag that flies over Biafra is the Biafran flag. That the anthem sung in Biafra is the Biafran anthem. That those who speak for you are elected by you, are accountable to you, and you can replace them anytime. Never ever allow aliens, those who murdered you, those who created environmental disaster, made your land a laughing stock in the world, to continue to parade themselves across the Biafran land. Take your destiny in your own hands. Whether you fight, you will die. Whether you don't, you will die. You better die an honorable person defending your homeland. You can count on me till the end of time. I will not let Biafran down. It's not because I know you, it is because freedom must be a universal currency that knows no border. And oppression must be banished from the face of the earth in the 21st century. And we all must live free and have hope and be able, if there is a next world, know that we live a fulfilling life. To my Ambazonian people, keep arming yourself on a daily basis. The occupier does not understand the language of negotiation. It does not understand the language of using political mechanisms to resolve issues. The only weapon in the hands of the occupier is the gun. And we have promised we will match them gun for gun and ideal for ideal to make sure the next generation receives a better land than we ever had. Magagambo bambu mankumbu tsum babu jutinaga ngumwon tsumos nitem njinge fotofia babu gna tonula aninge agadu bezo bo bugna bujinge bugitem tumbang na bugitem to mangi damin ton photo fie tang want to mamo Amazonia want to amo Biafra I can be free. God bless you all.
Thank you very much for your time, Dr. Cho Ayaba, for being here. I know you are a very busy person, but we thank you very much for honoring our invitation today on Tough Talk, Radio Biafra London. Thank you and good night.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot. God bless all of you. All hail Biafra. God bless Amazonia.
All hail Biafra and God bless Amazonia. Thank you, listeners. You have it. You have listened. This is where we draw the curtain. Thank you.